Hello everyone, my name is Meghan LeVota and I'm an ENFJ. Today I'd like to share with you guys some thoughts I have on introverted thinking. And just because introverted thinking is logically consistent, does that always mean that it is true? Does that always mean it's accurate? And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the pitfalls of introverted thinking and just some things I've noticed about it. For those of you who don't realize, I, as an ENFJ, I use introverted thinking as my inferior function, so I'm very much guilty of this. But essentially, this video is sort of inspired by, I got a comment earlier today from an INTP on my INTP video telling me that INTPs are usually right and usually smarter than other types, and I was kind of laughing about that to like a friend, and I was like thinking about that, and really no type is smarter than another type. TI is not smarter than TE. FI is not smarter than FE, vice versa. Thinking functions aren't smarter than feeling functions. They're all just different ways of processing, but I'll tell you, just because introverted thinking always knows their reasoning for things where other types don't know their reasoning for things, that doesn't mean that those reasons are more sound. All it means is that if you use TI very consciously, that those reasons are going to be very much in your brain. And so TI users are able to rationalize everything. So even stupid things, even things that aren't true, even things that serve their own interests, even things that you know aren't true and you're lying to yourself about. TI users can rationalize just about everything to themselves, and as long as it's logically consistent, they pretty much give themselves permission to do it. So that's just kind of, and I know this is kind of confusing because I'm not talking about any personality type in particular. I'm talking about TI kind of like as a thing, like how it works. And like I mentioned in another video, it's impossible to use TI at the same time as using FI. But anyway, an example of this would be if you tell yourself that you want to wake up early in the morning to be productive, and then you stay up late because you are being productive, and so you can TI rationalize to yourself, okay, well, it makes sense for me to be working right now because I have the energy to do so, and so I'm going to just use this energy, and who cares about going to bed early? I've changed my mind, I now have this new reason. And then you'll set your alarm, and then in the morning, TI can be like, actually, I think it makes more sense to not get up because I'm exhausted because I was working all night. Okay, and so TI was able to come up with a new reason for what they're doing. TE isn't like this. TE will have like rules that they sort of hold themselves accountable to. TI can change. TI is very adaptable logic. And I guess what I really want to get clear is with you guys is that just because you're using TI and just because your logic is 100% consistent with itself, it is 100% coherent with itself, doesn't mean that it's going to be consistent with the rest of the world. Doesn't mean it's going to be consistent with somebody else's truth or some sort of greater truth. Because TI is so nimble that it's able to switch in these sort of self-serving ways, and I'm completely guilty of it. Like, whenever, and sometimes TI users, you won't feel your introverted feeling fear, and it will sound like logic. Whenever TI users are depressed or fearful, it won't feel like, oh my God, I hate myself, oh my God, I can't do it. It won't feel as deeply the way that FI feels. It will sound like, oh, well, it'll probably make sense to, like, okay, for example, I met this INTP who I believe to be an INTP that makes YouTube videos and was talking about like, yeah, well, I don't upload that often, and, you know, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, he said something like, yeah, well, I have roommates, and so it's always really loud, and so it doesn't really make sense to upload that often. Do you see how that is like introverted thinking? Okay, it doesn't make sense. Found a reason. Oh, the reason is that, oh, I have roommates. It's loud. The video would be too loud, or there'd be too much noise, therefore I cannot make a video. Do you see how instead of feeling the FI fear of putting itself out there, it instead manifested itself as a TI reason for not doing it? TI users are very skilled at coming up with reasons for things. And they can change their mind. And you don't realize how much your fear or your feeling is in control of you, because that FI part of you still exists. At least the way that I like to think of it, and you guys can feel free to agree to disagree. The way that I like to think of it is that all 8 functions are all, you know, somewhere in our brain, somewhere in our little ego personality way of viewing ourselves. And some are like, have like a highlighter, or some have a flashlight over them, and some are dark. And so just because you aren't a TI user, you still have these sort of limiting beliefs or these sort of thought patterns going on. Or if you are a TI user, you still have these emotions that are going on behind the scenes. And so a lot of times TI users, especially TPs, they can look very much not afraid of something and very chill and very emotionless, but then they will just start explaining the reasoning for things and not even realize how your reasons are kind of skirting around some sort of feeling that you have that is some sort of fear or some sort of desire that you have. And TI users tend to avoid those feelings of fear or desire because that's very FI. Fear and desire are kind of 2 different types of intense emotions, either good or bad. You know, fear isn't good or bad, it just is. Desire isn't good or bad, it just is. They're just 2 different sides to a coin. But anyway, TI is very, very skilled at manipulating the truth to their own benefit based on the fact that they aren't aware of their FI. And so, how do I word this? Another way to, so I guess what I'm trying to say is don't look at TI as smarter. What TI is it's sharper, it's quicker, it can put pieces together and make sense of things very easily. It understands all the moving parts, it can really dissect something. But what does it really mean to be smart? Like, isn't there a connotation with the word smart that it should be accurate? And I'm not saying that TI is not accurate. I'm just saying that TI is not more accurate than FI. They're just 2 different ways of perceiving, or I mean, judging. There are 2 different ways of, you know, figuring things out. And TI can be stupid too, you know? TI can be very genius. TI can come up with an idea that's never been thought of before, or look at the roots behind why someone thinks something and really dissect that thought. But it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean that it's real. It doesn't mean it's accurate. So if you're a TI user and you're resonating with what I'm saying, try and think about some times in your life where you have wanted something and you have made excuses to yourself or made or rationalized the way from doing something. I know that FJs are very guilty of this as well, but it's not just an inferior TI thing. This is literally anyone can do this. I think that FPs are the most likely to know when they're doing this. Anyone can do this, but FPs, they use the least amount of TI, and so they will sort of know whenever their FI is like scared or like is doing something for like an emotional reason. But yeah, the example, like I said, about being like, never mind, I don't really want to wake up, or like, oh, I think it's practical to do this. TI could be a servant to fear a lot of the times. And fear still exists because you're a human. So I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how logical you are, you're still a human, you still have fear, you still have desires. And so it's about trying to use your thinking function alongside your fear and your desire, and not just thinking that because there is a logical rhyme or reason for why you're doing something that it's automatically the best thing to do. For example, I think that I could have used TI. Let me think of an example in my life. I think you guys get the point. If not, let me know. If you're a TI user and this resonates with you, I would love it if you would share a story of a time that you have sort of rationalized something away or sort of changed your mind about something and come up with a rationalization for it. That's another way to honestly look at it. Is, I know I keep overusing that word, but like, TI can rationalize anything, good or bad. So it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to do something, a TI user can come up with a good reason to do it. All TI is having a reason, knowing the reason, having that reason guide you. That is all TI is. And so a TP is not going to be smarter than an FJ or FP and TJ just because they're using better TI. Because just because you're using a lot of TI and just because something is logically consistent doesn't mean that really anything. It's the same, you can say the same with TE. I mean, really any function, just because you're using it doesn't really mean anything. Just because somebody is using FE doesn't mean that group harmony is like inevitable there. Just because you're thinking about group harmony doesn't mean that that's what's actually happening. For example, a lot of times FJs will, for example, today I was working and someone spilled like their coffee and kept saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry" to me for spilling the coffee. And I was just sort of like, well, I can't go back in time, I don't know. And it was almost annoying me, the fact that this person was saying sorry so often. And I don't know the type of that person, it was just a random lady, but it seems very FE, and it seems like a lot of FE users can get into this trap where they're trying to help people, but they actually aren't. But just because their motive is using a lot of FE, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is compassionate. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is in favor of group harmony. So I guess just chew on that. Chew on this. TI is not necessarily smart. It just means that you're rationalizing something and that it is consistent with, it's very coherent within the point. So anyway, hope that makes sense. I hope that made some sort of sense. I feel like as I go in these things, I know I'm really long-winded, but the issue is, guys, is that I know that some of you guys are going to get this concept right off the bat, and some of you guys are going to not get this concept at all and need me to explain it in a lot of ways. And the reason why my videos are so long-winded like this is because I'm trying to make sure that everybody can understand, not just some people. And so I'm working on how to better present that. But I also want to let you guys know, if you're interested in having conversations like this, please join my Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. I will link below. And I also am thinking about starting another Facebook group that would be paid. I'm not sure how much yet. I want to keep it very, very affordable, but I've realizing that I've had a lot of you guys reach out to me and ask, like, whether if I could type you, if I could type your friend, or if I could share my opinion on a celebrity's type, or you just want to know more about the functions. I'm thinking about creating a Facebook group that would be like a study group for just learning. And just so you guys know, it's like I don't really have the energy to answer this sort of comments anymore, and so this group would just be a group where I would be posting regularly, like, examples. Like, I will type celebrities for you. I will do Q&As of like weekly Q&As where people need to ask me questions about the functions and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to gauge some interest. So if that's something that you're interested in, I actually put together a little Google sheet thing with a quiz on it to just sort of gauge your interest. So I'm gonna also link that below. But yeah, I'm not an expert. I mean, I am. I mean, if you view me as an expert, then that's fine. That's your prerogative. I'm not Myers-Briggs certified, but I am a grad student in psychology. I'm going to be starting in the fall. And so this is something that I do want to become an expert in. I don't feel comfortable saying things like, okay guys, this is your type. Because I know that there's some hot water that you can get into whenever you start to tell someone, okay, this is your type with absolute certainty. And so in this group, I will type celebrities, I will type you, but you're gonna have to know it's just my opinion. That's just how I roll. I don't really like to promise things that I can't like 100% deliver. So it would just be my 2 cents. So if that's something you'd be interested in, then that's great. And if you've learned a lot from my videos and you think that I'm a person that can explain it to you, then that could be good for you. But anyway, been rambling on that a little bit too long. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So you guys know, I'm still continuing on with my Synchronic Saturdays podcast with Crystal. That will be every Saturday. I'm still continuing on with my series about what I've learned about the personality type. Things have been crazy here. I'm moving into a new apartment. I've been on vacation, and I'm thinking about some cool like offerings that I want to do, and I want to work more with you guys. Like I want to get more invested in this. So in personality, like I'm trying to save up to actually get certified, because even though I've been studying Myers-Briggs since I was 17 and I'm like 24 now almost, like I've read a lot of books, I've done a lot of experimenting and thinking, but I haven't been certified. So I never want to be the sort of person that is going to pretend like I know more than I do. I mean, I get comments sometimes where people are like, you're just some girl on YouTube, why should I listen to you? And to which my response is always like, yeah, you get it. Good job. Yeah, I am a girl on YouTube. Why are you listening to me? That's up to you. You can listen if you want. So I've never really understood that. I don't really know how to position myself like that, guys, because like I'm just a girl. I'm a girl that thinks about this a lot and might have some value for you. And I definitely want to, I know that this is a huge issue that ENFJs deal with, is learning how to value yourself. Where I would say that a lot of times TJs will just sort of put themselves out there at their value, sometimes even higher than their value. TJs have no problem putting themselves like out there, being like, oh, here's how you pay me. Oh, this is my value. This is what I'm worth. This is what my energy and my time's worth. This is like, honestly, probably the hardest life thing that I'll have to work through is my value, my career. How do I make sure that I'm not being taken advantage of? How do I make sure that I'm protecting my boundaries and my energy? Because I do love helping people. This is like one of the hardest things for me as an ENFJ. And so it's something I'm working through, but I am determined to figure out how I can do it, because I want to start offering some ways that you guys can learn, because I get a lot of comments that I just can't respond to, but I want to figure out very affordable ways that I can help you guys, where I still feel like, you know, I'm being valued, but I'm not trying to be like, I'm not going to try and like take your money, 'cause, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I feel like not until I have like a degree or something, I don't know, like, or more experience would I feel comfortable charging a lot. And so, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to be fair with you guys, and I'm totally rambling right now, but for those of you who are still here, thank you, because I'm assuming that if you're still listening, you must at least give somewhat of a shit about me, because those of you who just clicked because of the title probably are gone by now. But just to be frank, like this has been very hard for me. I've had like ideas of things I want to show, like services and offerings I want to give, but the hardest part for me is just sharing it, because these things will stay in my head, like in my inferior TI, constantly refining over and over before I have the courage to share. So anyway, if you're interested in all in what I might have to offer in the future, please do me a favor and fill out that survey. It should take like less than 5 minutes, like probably even less than 2 minutes. So that'd mean a lot to me, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day.